Last time I showed you how to sculpt, paint, and assemble your creature eyes, and now I'm going to show you how to make a simple mold so that you can easily replicate your iris sculpt. You'll be able to make an army of monster eyes in no time. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Kazul, and welcome to my lair. And also, welcome to part 2 of the creature eye tutorial. In this part, I'll show you how to make a mold of your eye. The reason you'll want a mold is that it'll cut back dramatically on the work that you need to do. Instead of sculpting 2 irises or however many irises you need for the eyes you make, you concentrate on making one perfect iris. Then you can make a mold and replicate that iris exactly as many times as you want.
Just for an example, I use eyes that I cast just like in this video in this head. This is Lynx from Chrono Cross that I did as a commission. I've sent it off to another cosplay artist, CF Studios, to finish his hat and outfit.
Now, before we get started, I'd like to thank you all so much for now over 1,000 subscriptions. I'm so incredibly grateful. We actually blew way past 1,000 and now we're at 1,300, and I really appreciate that. You all are awesome. So I really hope that you enjoy my content going forward. I've got a lot of great plans, so thank you very much. And also, I'd like to thank anybody who came to my table at TFF in Dallas this last weekend. It was really cool to be able to meet some of you in real life. With that out of the way, let me tell you the ingredients you'll need to get this ritual of summoning started.
You'll need your sculpt from last time, a piece of cardboard, some mixing cups and mixing tools, some personal protective gear, including gloves and a respirator, some box cutters and scissors, hot glue. You'll need some silicone and also some resin. We'll talk more about what types you can use there. And you'll also need a sacrificial paintbrush. And as an option, you can also get a straw. So you'll take your sculpt, get it ready with your little piece of cardboard. What you need to do is glue it down to the cardboard so it won't move. Next, you'll need like a little cup. This little one that I had happened to be the perfect size. This is for the mold wall. What I'm just going to do is poke a little hole so I can cut out the top and use it for a mold wall. You can also build your mold wall out of clay or other cardboard that you just glue together. It doesn't matter. A cup is convenient for me. So what you'll want to do is glue that down, and using a quite thick bead of hot glue to glue it down, because you don't want any silicone to be able to escape. And in fact, just to make sure it's sealed up, I go around it a second time with the hot glue gun. Next, you'll need your silicone. Mine, I'm using Mold Star 16 Fast from Smooth On. You can mix it 1-to-1 by weight or volume, and I find it like smaller quantities like what we're doing, that weight kind of makes it a little easier. So here I'll measure out the different parts. Make sure to follow and read all the instructions on the packaging regarding what safety gear you need and mix times, etc. So a little more about the silicone that I'm using. The Mold Star series is a platinum silicone, which means that it can be mixed 1-to-1, and it also means that you can't use any kind of clay that has sulfur in it or latex gloves. I'm actually using vinyl gloves. The Mold Star series is actually a pretty low viscosity silicone, so that means that you don't have to degas it since I don't have a degasser. The 16 part of the title refers to its shore hardness, or how squishy and soft it is, so this is a relatively soft silicone. Now it's time to get ready to mix them together. Since this one does cure fast, you gotta work a little fast. So mix it together very thoroughly. Make sure that there's no streaks. Make sure to scrape the edges and bottom as best you can. that was me testing for streaks. Just mix it as much as you can. Next, I'm gonna put a little bit on and grab the sacrificial paintbrush. This paintbrush will get ruined, so make sure it's a cheap one. I'm just using that to help get into all the little crevices. So I can also use the straw and kind of blow it in. That also helps a little bit get rid of air bubbles. The next strategy is to pour it in one location off to the side in as thin a line as possible. So that way the silicone just crawls across the surface and all the air bubbles don't get trapped. So just pouring it as thin as possible, letting it fill up. Now, just for good measure, I shake it around, help any air bubbles that were trapped escape, and also take the straw again and blow into it. And that's that. You just set it aside to cure. And now that it's cured, and this one is fast, so it cured in just a matter of hours. You're taking it and you'll have to remove the mold wall and get the mold separated from the cardboard, which this cardboard happened to be really grabbing that hot glue well today. And it actually grabbed it so well that it just pulled out the sculpt as well. So there you go, you have it removed. At this point, I like to grab some little scissors and trim the mold so that it looks nice. Now your sculpt should still be good, and I recommend making two so that you can cast two eyes at the same time. So now we're going to move to casting. This is where you'll need your respirator, for sure. Silicone not so much, but this one for sure. And I also have the window open and a fan blowing on me. So this one's the same. Measure it out according to the instructions on your resin. And this resin, Smooth Cast 65D, it's actually used mostly for rotocasting. It is the resin that I had on hand and have a lot of, so it's perfectly fine for this. Smooth On has plenty of products that you can go read all about them and choose which one would be best for your application. But this one was what I had, so it's what I used, and it works great. This one, you also have to mix it very thoroughly for, a good minute or two, just to make sure that it's completely mixed. And my strategy to remove air bubbles is to pour a little bit in and roll it around so that you can get a little bit in, and that kind of coats the surface and prepares it for the rest of the resin. Now, I mixed up a little extra in this one. It's better to have a little extra than not, so I just have a second mold of something else that I use to dump any extra resin that I have in whenever I'm casting. And now we just have to let it sit and cure. I'll let you see this process. It's a chemical cure, so you'll see it's translucent now, but it'll become bright white, and it'll start in the middle and move out to the edges. There it goes. Now, since it cures starting from the thickest point moving to the thinnest point, one strategy to know exactly when it's done curing is to keep your cup that you mixed it in around, and the very thinnest parts of that, once those are cured, you'll know that your cast is ready to demold. So you'll see me in a second here come in and test the cup and see how much that is curing. Also, you can see some little drips on the edge of the mold that are still very translucent. That's another way to just kind of visually gauge. So here I am, I'm testing out in the cup. You can see it's still quite flexible, and touching on the stick where it's the thinnest, it's still quite sticky. So I decided to let it cure for a little bit longer. And I like to say right now, as a reminder, I will have links to everything that I used in this tutorial in the description below, including links to Smooth On, where you can research other silicones and resins to your heart's content. So the total time that I let these eyes sit was about 20-25 minutes, which is a little slow for what this resin does cure. Since my window was open, it was a little cold. And you see here that I'm testing it. Oh yeah, it's still a little sticky on the thinnest part, but it's pretty warm to the touch still. So letting it sit, I ended up letting it sit for 25 minutes because it was a little cold in my room with the window open, and the temperature affects the time that any resins or silicones cure. The colder it is, the slower the reaction. The warmer it is, the faster the reaction. And at this point, I decide that it's fully cured. Just slowly pry away the eye from the mold and stick my thumbs under and pop it up. And there you go. Now at this point, your cast should still be warm. So it's at this point that I like to take my box cutter and just trim off the sharp edges on the back. And it's the perfect time to do it because it's the resin's still warm, and so it's a really soft plastic feeling, really easy to cut. And be careful of your thumb. Don't cut it your thumb. I didn't, but I was being dumb on how I was cutting it. And there you go.
I have promised to do some experiments with this style of eye involving clear resin. Fear not, I have not forgotten, and I in fact decided that those experiments would be better served in their own video. Now, it actually spawned an idea for a whole series of videos that I'm going to do, in which I will welcome you into my world and how I do research and development. So you'll see all my experiments, you'll see my successes, and more importantly, probably you'll see my failures. So stay tuned for next time, where I will welcome you into my crucible. If you haven't already, please subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications too, so you'll know the moment that I upload my next video. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And this is Kazul reminding you to embrace your inner beast. So please stay tuned for next time, where I will welcome you to my crucible. Where I will welcome you to my crucible. Where I will welcome you to my crucible.